Hey guys, it's Quickie Baby and I'm playing in the Object 430 version 2. I'm in a game on El Haloof and this is going to be one of the best replays that I have had recently. It was very satisfying to finally have a good game in the Object 430 version 2, as it is a tank that I feel is very capable with impressive stats, but that game just kept eluding me, as I will highlight later on. So I'm playing on El Haloof, and with a tank with great armor such as the Object 430 version 2, I've decided to go into a very aggressive position. So instantly, I've locked down 3 opponents that possibly wanted to use this area here, or even to continue to advance to get into these positions here. However, I'm going to show you exactly what the strength of the Object 430 version 2 is, and that's having 120mm of frontal armor and some fairly okay side armor as well, as long as you side scrape carefully. Now the DPM on this tank is fantastic. It's got 100mm that is more than capable of punishing these tier 8 and 7 tanks in front of us. And really, this Tiger is just a gigantic tasty snack for the Object 430 version 2. He stood absolutely no chance against this tank, and we managed to do 1,264 damage to him in little over a minute. Now interestingly, World of Tanks has got some issues at the moment, and you see me putting 2 shots into the side of the Tiger here. Now, if you watch this replay back on the live version of the game, which hasn't actually communicated successfully into the replays version of the game, that Tiger was in fact situated further to the left. So there is a bit of a bug in 9.1 at the moment, and that is that dead enemies can sometimes not be where they actually are, which is pretty brutal, to be honest. I'm just going to talk briefly about the move that I'm seeing here, but let's highlight just how easily this tank is ammo racked there. 1 shot in the side, just like the T-54. I was quite lucky that it didn't actually destroy my ammo rack and 1-shot me there. You don't ever want to give up the flush side armor of this tank if possible. Now I'm just going to talk quickly about the movements that you've seen me use on El Haloof so far. As we managed to kill an SU-122-44 there. I went down here to counter the people here. Then, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is they try and push up here and they get shot in the side. Unless you've got a tank which has got good turret armor and good gun depression, which the Object 430 version 2 definitely does not have, then you're far better, in my opinion, to get a bit of a run-up and to try and break through this area. And then you can make it up here and put the pressure up on the enemies at this location. The only counter for this play here is if they situate a couple of tanks up in this location. But luckily for me, they didn't, and it has allowed me to spot that Ferdinand, force him to turn his side armor to me, to allow my friends in the base to put some pressure on him. Now we've got a Tiger 2 who does not think that enemies would be in this position 2.5 minutes into the game. Sorry, make that 3.5 minutes into the game. Usually El Haloof, you're very safe to sit in your base for the first 10 minutes or so. However, we've put the pressure up and we got stuck in. Now this is interesting. I'm playing against the Super Pershing, who is by far the best player statistically on the enemy team. Now we're going to make use of the Super Pershing's weak points, but he's definitely going to make the most of my weak points as well. He's putting round after round into our lower plate. But also, we're targeting his weak points as well. Now when you're engaging the Super Pershing, as long as you don't hit their spaced armor, it generally will go in, with 200mm of penetration that the Object 430 version 2 has. Now he put a lot of shots into my lower plate, as we can see there. Pinpoint marksmanship, great play by him, absolutely brutalized us. But we took him out very quickly with our high DPM. Now we're looking around the corner to see if we can find any more opponents. And we see a VK3002D, who is evidently AFK. But we're going to take him out because he will be spotting for us, or spotting us for the enemy. So it's in our interest to take him out as quickly as we can, so that hopefully he won't be spotting us for the artillery and we can be a bit more sneaky. So we haven't spotted the enemy artillery yet. The enemy artillery could still be located up the east, but we don't know that for sure. So we're trying to side scrape to get the AMX, and oh well, the artillery has been spotted. So we're aiming for him. Oh, it just dipped down. Now I'm loading an HE shell. Now just to talk about why I'm loading an HE shell here, because artillery has very little armor. And also, the HE on this gun does a rather impressive 420 alpha damage. And as that artillery had 350, probably about, I would only be able to one-shot him with my AP rounds, maybe 3 times out of 10. That HE shell, while it was slightly risky, if it hit him at all, it would have put him within the regions of the AP shell to one-shot him more often than not. Or, alternatively, as we saw there, the HE shell just snuck over at the enemy tank. I managed to take him out in one shot. Now we've been able to use the mobility of the Object 430 version 2 to get round the back and to put the pain on this Jagdtiger. And very little that gentleman could do there. He had to engage that T-30 that was in front of him, and I was just opportunistic with my play to be able to outflank him and take him out. So this play here, it's a little greedy in some ways. I could just cap to secure it. However, I did see that we had 3 people in the cap circle, and knowing that the Jagdpanther 2 is no longer up here, I wanted to go hunting. When you're on 6,000 damage and 7 kills, 1 away from a Radley Walters medal, you do get that kind of bloodlust. Now, luckily for me, this Jagdpanther 2 just got spotted there. Now, I want to keep going for the tier 9 heavy tanks that are up in our base, but this Jagdpanther 2 gives me a lovely opportunity. There we go. There's the 8th kill and the Radley Walters medal secured. And we can see that our team are capping out in 10 minutes. I ping the map, and I do ask them in chat, please consider resetting the cap. And with 1 second to go, one of the guys resets. Awesome, thank you so much. And then another guy resets. Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Now I load heat rounds here, because I don't know how long I have left. I have 10 seconds to get 2 kills, if at all possible. And the heat rounds were more than enough to take out those tier 9 heavy tanks with ruthless efficiency. So this was an absolute blitzkrieg of a game. It was very challenging to keep up with the commentary for all the important things that happened during it, so I'm going to just quickly run down some of the key moments. So since the El Haloof changes, I've been looking for ways to be able to be aggressive and to try and dominate the game, and one of the positions that I found is this starting location. Now you do run some risk bombing it down here. Either one of the enemy tanks could have blocked me, one of the enemy tanks could have come down this way, or even the enemy tanks could start to put pressure up from this way. But considering the batch up and the strength of the Object 430 version 2, I felt that this was the right play. From here, we were able to pretty much catch 3 whole tanks just to ourselves, leaving them with absolutely no opportunity to retreat. They had to use this ridgeline and stay close to it to avoid fire from our ridgeline. As soon as they pull back to try and make it into cover from me here, then they're just going to get shot from our ridgeline. Once I was dug in here, if I was in a tank with gun depression and turret armor, then a very viable position will be up here to try and spot the enemy tank destroyers. And as long as you've got turret armor and gun depression, you can use this position to be fairly competitive. However, the Object 430 version 2 would not be able to use this position effectively, and it would have to make its way up here to be able to reach this position, be able to shoot across at the enemy to be effective. However, my feeling is that this position is open to artillery, open to any tank destroyers that might be sneaking around up there. And also, when you make it here, you're turning it into a shootout with tank destroyers. What I've found that's more effective is that instead of going up here, you get a bit of a run-up at this location, and then you use this dip, this ravine, so to say, what looks like a riverbed, to give you some cover. You'll have noticed that I took one shot in the side, which could have spelt my demise from the ammo rack. However, we did successfully make it up into this position. When you're here, you have lots of cover from the other side of the map, and if you want to, you can push around here fairly safely to engage the tanks on the other side. The only thing you really need to worry about is if there are enemies located up in this area. If there are enemies located up on this hill, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, so you've got to make sure you dig them out, or have judged the situation so they're not using those positions. The attack route that I took was up along here to be able to proxy spot any of the tanks that are sitting on this corner. That immediately puts them on the defense. This is a key camping area for tank destroyers. However, as soon as they're spotted, they often take fire from your ridgeline. We made it around the side to force the Ferdinand to turn his side armor. And then from here, really, we were in, and it was just all about us using the strengths of the Object 430 version 2 to outplay our opponents. In this kind of a matchup, even with 200mm of penetration, we didn't need to use heat at all, until the end where I had probably about 10 seconds to kill 2 tier 9 enemy tanks, so I really couldn't afford any bounces, and it would have been a bit of a heartbreak, as we wouldn't have secured our pools medal. Just before we look at the post-game stats, let's take a quick look at that sweet kill on that artillery. So I thought I could highlight here just the choice between ammo when you're engaging artillery. So when I'm doing this, there's a few things that I take into account. 1, find out how much health the enemy artillery has. Okay, the M12 has got 350 hit points. 2, know what the average damage of your ammo is. Okay, 320. So I have to roll for roughly about 10% higher than I would normally, i.e. I have to turn a 320 roll into a 350 roll to one-shot him with my AP round. Realistically, I think this is only going to happen about 3 times out of 10. Although I'm sure a lot of you who know a lot more than me about statistics and distributions are going to tell me otherwise in the comments below. So next I have to consider my HE ammunition. My HE ammunition has got 420 damage. So if we do actually manage to penetrate the enemy tank, there is no doubt that is going to one-shot him. And even if it doesn't penetrate his tank, it's very likely to do about 50 to 100 to even 150 damage to the enemy. And that leaves him to a guaranteed kill from my 100mm AP rounds. This theory crafting of what ammunition to choose is not only limited to shooting artillery. Quite often if you have the side of the rear of, say, a French tank or especially an American tank, you can penetrate HE ammo, often wrecking modules and doing more damage for yourself. Often more cheaply, as the HE rounds are generally less expensive than the AP rounds. But anyway, that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's take a look at that sweet shot. Nice. So we got an absolutely fantastic result in the Object 430 version 2, with I think the highest ever experience score I've got with a tier 9 tank. That is not a triple, that is a double. 5,840, which is 2,920 with premium, and 1,947 base experience. The armor profile of the Object 430 secured us a steel wall, the high caliber medal for doing the most damage with that rather ruthless Soviet 100mm, and a pools medal for killing 2/3 of the enemy team. Now I've had multiple 2000 experience games in this tank, none of them getting a mastery badge. And games like this show me why, but not many people are playing these tanks. And it's a lot like a T-54, it's very strong and capable of having massive games. WN8 wise, this game was 16,650. And we got pretty lucky with our penetrations this game. We fired 29, of which 24 hit, and of those 24, 24 penetrated, giving us a total of 6,800 damage, as well as doing 3,000 damage upon detecting. Now this tank is hella strong, just like the T-54. You can't go wrong with the Soviet Tier 9 medium tanks. I can't wait to rack up a few more games in this vehicle where I can start to consider to do you a full review on it. Nevertheless, I think the gameplay that we've seen here of this vehicle is quite telling that the review that I will do will be quite favorable, based on the strengths of this awesome vehicle. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to theory craft as much as I can and provide you with what I'm thinking while the battle's going on, as well as give you those sweet artillery slow-mo kills as well. If you liked this video, please rate it down below. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out. And let me know in the comments what you think about the Object 430 version 2. Do you think it's just worse than the T-54, or do you think the rear-mounted turret allows it to side-scrape its way to victory? Anyway, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.